It's another week and another episode of It's Called Football, the Premier League podcast hosted by myself, Jerry Walker, and Jackson Fyda. It is Vendetta Sports Media's only ever football or soccer podcast that they have. So we are here to bring you all the latest Premier League action. We also have some World Cup news that broke today. It is Wednesday, October 4th when we were recording this. A little Champions League stuff. So we got you guys all sorts covered. Jackson, before we hop into all this stuff, how are you? How's the week been? I know it sounded very busy for you.
Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, I had 4 exams, presentation, a quiz yesterday. I actually had a quiz today, and I have an essay due tomorrow. So it's been a pretty fun week for me. And I have a busted lip as well. Hopefully that doesn't show up too much. So, and our team got absolutely destroyed on the weekend. So I've had a great start to the week.
October's off to a flying start for you. It's all uphill from here, though.
Yeah, I guess. Duke football lost too, so pretty down about that game. But
yeah, that was
going from there.
Losing to Notre Dame like that. I don't think anyone outside of Notre Dame fans and North Carolina fans wanted Notre Dame to win that one.
And that one was tough because, I'm also a Notre Dame fan and my sister goes there. But how can you not root for Duke?
Yeah.
Duke football.
If it's basketball, maybe it's different, but Duke football.
Duke football, you have to root for him. And now freaking Riley Leonard's hurt, so I don't know.
Tough
but that's a different football. Let's get back
to what we are discussing today. And news today, the World Cup of 2030, they have announced the host nations, and it's been 1 for a long time. Now it's moving to 3 in 2026. Then 6 different host nations for the 2030 World Cup. Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Spain, Portugal, Morocco. I hate this.
Oh, my gosh. So much. I got a post out about this earlier this morning, and I didn't really talk about my thoughts in the post. I think that's got to be a separate post, though, because this is actually something that is starting to really bother me. Part of the fun of the World Cup is the immersion of the whole of the events of the whole world into that host nation's culture. Think about how cool it was in South Africa.
Oh yeah,
getting to be involved with all that. Brazil, you get to be involved with all that. Russia, even Qatar. It's cool to be involved. That's how you get immersed. That's the point of what these events really should be, is to kind of showcase one nation's culture.
Yeah.
Their way of life to the world. That was what the World Fair was back in the day. It's really what the Olympics should be. When you go to host an event like this, is to bring the world to your shores. Now it's not like that at all. We're I get it. It's cool. 100 years ago, the event was held in Uruguay, so let's put a game there. But 6 different. How the hell does Paraguay have a game? What have they contributed?
That's what I don't understand, is because they haven't even qualified for a World Cup
since 2010
years.
They haven't qualified since 2010, and then 20 years later, because I don't think they'll qualify this go around. They're gonna just get to be qualified. That's another thing. 6 automatic qualifiers.
I'm wondering if they're planning on expanding it even more so by 2030, because it's already going from 32 to
48
teams.
Which, dude, don't even get me started on that shit.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's bad. And, this is the thing with the World Cup, is it's not meant to be inclusive to everybody.
No, it's an elite level tournament that you have to qualify for.
Yeah.
And now
throw in free bids to everyone. That was one of the best things of World Cup qualifying for the last World Cup. You see Italy miss out on automatic qualification, have to go through the playoff. Then they lose to North Macedonia. Not exactly a powerhouse.
No.
But had North Macedonia then pulled off the next upset, which would have been just as much a miracle over Portugal, we would have seen them in and 2 of the most famous teams in the world out of it. And that's kind of what makes it special. Now it's you're never going to see those upsets. It's always going to be the same big countries always making it because they don't have to worry about qualification. So much easier to get in, all that stuff, and it's just not fun.
No,
not that special anymore.
It's not. 32-team World Cup was perfect. 8 groups of 4, round of 16. We go from there. You expand to 48 teams. FIFA's already had to go back on their initial format because they realized this is stupid. Like 16 groups of 3, that's what we were going to do. How does that make any sense? Because part of the reason that they put the last games of each group stage on the same day at the same time is to avoid match fixing. And then someone suddenly is like, oh, wait a minute. So if we have a game like this and 2 teams are going to go through if they just get a certain result, there's a possibility that that could happen again. They thought about that after the fact. And suddenly they're like, oh, shit. Okay, we should probably change that. Also, money, more games equals that. So they're going back to that format. But dude, the whole thing is just, I don't understand what we're doing anymore.
No, it's not the World Cup that it should be. It's not as, doesn't seem as special. I mean, I'm going to watch every game. And from a viewer standpoint, 48 teams, more games, more time to watch football. It's great. But from just like the ideology of the World Cup and everything, I just not a huge fan of what it's becoming. And we saw it with the Euros, 2020 Euros before COVID hit. It was meant to be hosted in 10 different countries around Europe. That's absurd, in my opinion.
I hated that as well.
It would have been cool. I think it was my dad had tickets to 7 different countries, so he's going to fly around, and like that aspect of it, that's awesome. You got to go around, see new places. But the idea of it should be in one country. You take the train, the buses, get a car. You see parts of the country traveling around that you would never go and see otherwise. I feel like they're losing that, and I don't know how they're going to do it. But I mean, seeing how the 2026 World Cup is, it's about 4 stadiums in Canada, 10 in the U.S., and 3 in Mexico.
Which, dude, I still think that that's an abomination as well. I thought that was an abomination. 3 countries. 2. I get it. It worked with Korea and Japan. Yeah. I'm still not a huge fan of that, but I can, because they're honestly not even culturally the same at all. I thought that was kind of insane, but whatever. We move past that. But U.S., Mexico, and Canada. First of all, the U.S. is so big. Transportation's already a nightmare. But now suddenly you're going to have to go possibly a game in Vancouver, all the way down to Mexico, and then suddenly to New York City. Like, if you're trying to watch games, I'm trying to figure this out because I'm going to be going to these games.
100%.
I think I just need to pick a central location and stick with it. I think LA might be my home for that month.
Yeah, and then just easy airport to fly in and out of and all that. But I mean, a lot of fans aren't going to necessarily be flying. It's also kind of, that was a big thing that I remember seeing in South Africa, seeing in Brazil. Obviously, they're hard places to travel. But once you were there, it was so easy to get to the matches because everything was somewhat in a general location.
And like, as it was flawed, it never should have been there. But Qatar had the easiest access for fans to move around.
It was so.
You were there.
Yeah, I went to 10 games in 10 days there, and it was so easy.
Yeah.
All the public transportation was free. You just hop on the train, takes you up 10, 20 minutes, sometimes a little longer for the far ones. Get off, walk to the stadium. It's so simple. Everything was right there. But it also brought into what you were saying earlier. It brought all these people from around the world to one little place. And it was just, you'd walk down the street, see people in Germany shirts, in Croatia, Senegal, Australia, whatever it was. You'd see all these people from all over the world just together. And now it's going to be, you have a game in Argentina. Imagine you have the game in Argentina, then you suddenly have to fly all the way to Morocco, readjust to the time zone and all of that, and then get ready to play an extremely competitive match. It doesn't make a jot of sense. I get it. If it was just Morocco, Italy, or Morocco, Spain, and Portugal, that's a little easier. They're all right there. You can take a boat across from Morocco to the 2. Easy transportation between Spain and Portugal. That, honestly, to me, made sense. Wasn't a huge fan because 3 countries. Spain could obviously host it on their own. Portugal probably could. Morocco would have had to put some money into their stadiums, but they probably could have hosted it themselves. I mean, they're hosting the African Cup of Nations in 2025. Or I guess it'll be in 26, but it's called the 2025. But why not have one of those countries solo hosted? I mean, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like we'll see it next year. Really, might be the last time we see a tournament held in one country, with the Euros being held just in Germany.
Yeah, because right now it looks like it's going to be England and Ireland. They're the only bids.
They left after Turkey pulled out of that today as well.
Yeah. So I just don't like the move. Okay, I will say this. I'm in a Spanish history and culture class, so I've kind of gotten a little bit more perspective on the Iberian Peninsula and Morocco kind of being connected culturally. So I guess I could kind of see it from that standpoint because of. Sorry about that. Did you get that?
Yeah, I got that. It's a national-wide alert that everybody in the country is getting.
Wow, that just tweaked me out. But going back to it, I get from a cultural standpoint, huge Arabic influence on the Iberian Peninsula, huge Spanish influence in Northern Africa. So
that all makes sense. Like that stuff made sense.
That makes more sense. And if I still want it in one country because of the elements we're talking about with the travel and getting fully immersed in that nation's culture, but I could have understood that more so than throwing in 3 South American nations just because you're like, oh, we have to, because now we look good because we're doing it.
If you had to do it, put it in one of those countries to begin with.
Why wouldn't you put it even a Uruguay-Argentina World Cup? I mean, go for that. But like have a backbone and just pick a friggin' country rather than just saying, oh, we'll just throw it here. Like, I don't know, man. It just feels – and if you're Uruguay, you're happy to be hosting a game, but it just feels like such a gratuitous, like, oh, not important, we'll just give you a game, whatever. But you can't host the rest. You can have one game just because of what happened 100 years ago. That doesn't really – if you're in charge of the bidding, you didn't really win. You kind of just got a charity.
Oh, exactly.
Like,
and I mean,
the thing is, I'm probably going to try to go to that first game in Uruguay. But
then it throws that, like, looking at it from a fan's perspective as well. It's say you want to see Argentina play in that first game. You're in Argentina. Now you have to travel all the way across the world to get to Spain, Portugal, Morocco, wherever your team plays next. To do that, that's not exactly going to be a cheap flight. Plus all the people who are flying down from elsewhere to go to Argentina or Uruguay or Paraguay for that first game. It's crazy. And FIFA's honestly pretty greedy about this whole thing now. We're seeing it more and more in everything. Not a huge fan, but we're not the ones making the calls. And
we're the ones suffering.
The 2-team tournament.
The players as well, man. You're someone on the Uruguay, Argentina, Paraguay national team, or whoever they have to play that game. Suddenly you have to travel all the way, not just even across the Atlantic, but to the North Atlantic. Like, and then play another game. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like with the 48 game or 48 team thing, but you're not going to have enough time, really, I feel like, to really get fully adjusted. That's a big transition. So I don't know. I don't like it at all. I like it better when you had one country hosting it. And maybe it looks like we probably will get back to that in 2034. The only problem is it'll be in Saudi Arabia, so we got to have a whole nother conversation on that. But I don't like the way things are moving. The Euros have already done it. They look like they're going to do it again, which why the hell is Ireland in there, by the way? Well, why does Ireland have to be thrown in there? Why are they going to get to host? I'm Irish.
Yeah.
Why are they getting to host it? It's kind of like the U.S. throwing in Mexico and Canada because we were concerned we wouldn't get it because of Donald Trump. Don't get me wrong, dude's a complete jackass. We still would have gone it without him.
Oh, 100%. The U.S., the infrastructure too and all that, it's need to put in grass because we were seeing more and more of those turf injuries. And I don't know, I assume you saw that they've narrowed down the final to 2 stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
MetLife in New Jersey and Cowboy Stadium in Dallas.
Yeah, because
everyone wants to go. Everyone wants to go to New Jersey. That's just everyone from around the world. Like
it's going to be in Texas,
New Jersey, and then that's another thing I have an issue with. Why the hell are they playing a World Cup final indoors?
Oh my gosh, yeah, dude. I
played at Atlanta. It's still the dome, but you can open the dome, so it's still natural lighting, all that. There's a real fan base there. Texas doesn't really have a huge footballing fan base. I saw someone say Kansas City. I would love that. U.S., national team seems to be, or that fan group seems to be based out of Kansas City.
Kansas City's got a lot of U.S. support.
Insane.
Missouri and Kansas have great U.S. support, great soccer support.
Yeah. So that would have been a cool place to do it at Arrowhead. I know it's not a spectacular stadium and they can't sell 90,000 seats for $90,000 each, but good. They shouldn't.
I agree with that. Yeah. What I would have done personally, why not use the Rose Bowl? Why not use the Rose Bowl? It's not modern enough.
Yeah,
that's exactly the whole point. It's a friggin' Rose Bowl. It's literally the most iconic stadium that the U.S. has, bar the Cotton Bowl.
Let me throw
even that. No, it still is. Even over the Cotton Bowl, it is the most famous stadium that the U.S. has. It is big enough to hold nearly 100,000, a little under, but it's big enough to hold all those people. If you want, do a little renovation. Why does it have to be one of these new fancy, oh my God, places? Why not play that game at the Rose Bowl? That would be sick. That's where the final was held in '94. That would be awesome to me. But instead, it's a giant money grab. So where are we going to put it? Possibly in New Jersey. Freaking Jersey.
And you're talking about all these new stadiums. The MetLife Stadium is not new. It's apparently a dump. There's absolutely nothing around there. It's very difficult to get to. Not much public transportation from my knowledge of it. It's an absolute shit show. Other stadium I want to give a shout to that would be awesome because I saw when they hosted a preseason friendly, got 110,000 fans there. Why not the Big House?
Yeah, why not the Big House? If you're talking about pure size, that's the biggest one we got, isn't it?
Why not sell that out or do something crazy? I also still think the final should be played in Mexico. I think that would have made more sense.
Yeah, it would never happen.
Yep.
No, the Azteca should have more games than it does. That's the most impressive stadium on the list.
Yep.
That and Monterrey's has the sickest view.
Oh yeah.
I want to go to a game there. That's awesome. But
I'm more interested in going to games in like Mexico than I am really in the U.S. I know it's going to be logistically much easier, but yeah. Catch me going up to Canada. I don't quite remember the cities off the top of my head. I know it. I want to say it's Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal.
I believe so.
But anyway, that's our World Cup rant on that. We've done that for a little bit longer than we probably needed to. Time to get into some Premier League action, and there's controversy there as well this weekend. Tottenham and Liverpool ultimately finished 2-1, even though Jurgen Klopp is praying and arguing and hoping for a replay of this due to Nunez's goal being ruled out for offside, which it was called offside on the field. VAR means they can't go and overturn that. Was it the right call? No. Did it happen? Yep. Get over it. In that game also, Liverpool had 2 red cards, so it can't exactly feel too bad for them. You were down to 9 men. You were really lucky that it wasn't more than just a 2-1 difference.
Dude, I do feel for Liverpool. But yeah, you're not going to get the game replayed. That's a crazy shout that he's saying. We need to get the game replayed. I do think that VAR in general has been atrocious.
Oh, absolutely.
All year. I don't know what the problem is. It's not like these are issues where like, oh, goal line technology didn't work one time because there were like 8 players around the ball and it couldn't see. That I understand when it won't happen. But these are errors that I think are very easily avoidable. And I understand his frustration. It's very unfortunate, but you can't replay the game.
No. Especially because, sure, Liverpool wants to, but what about Tottenham? And if they were to replay it, they get screwed because they get 3 points. That means all the red cards are back to whatever it is. Liverpool just gets an advantage. And this is why one of my issues with Jurgen Klopp is if he loses, no matter what way it happens, he just bitches and moans and complains that, oh, something went wrong. Someone cheated us out of this. We deserve to win. We need it redone. No, grow up here. This happened all the time. I was talking to my dad earlier about it. There's been games where we've seen teams score that shouldn't have been allowed. Before VAR, there were so many more controversial things that happened. Mm-hmm. And VAR was supposed to come in and help this all out, and it didn't. Didn't at all. If anything, it's made it worse. It's the inconsistencies. It's the unreliability. I love what they were saying in other sports where you hear the actual referee like talking it through and you hear what's happening, what their discussion is, at least on the TV. They don't do that. Even when I went to a Leeds game in the Premier League 2 seasons ago and a VAR was saying, you don't know what they're reviewing. You don't know what it is. You just see on the board VAR review in progress. It doesn't tell you anything about it inside the stadium. Outside on TV, you kind of at least see and the commentators know what's happening, so they're breaking it down. But VAR is a mess. And going back to this one, if they were to replay it, you can't because Tottenham would completely argue. And then it's like, okay, we give the favor to one team, to hell with this other team. It doesn't matter what they think anymore. And plus, Liverpool screwed themselves. It was 1-1 until they scored the own goal in the 96th minute.
Yeah. I mean, they were going to find a way despite all this stuff that went against them. Curtis Jones' red card, obviously controversial. But everything that went against them, they were going to get out of there, and they scored an own goal. I think
that summed it up perfectly.
But no, you can't replay a game because that nullifies 2 red cards.
Yep.
First of all, Tottenham would never agree to that.
Okay.
There is no precedent for replaying a completed match. Have you ever seen that happen?
No. And plus, I would throw one more thing out there. If they were to replay it, when are you going to do it?
Yeah.
Liverpool is Europe. Tottenham doesn't. But you still wouldn't be able to do it probably until January or February with the fixture congestion because there's still cup matches being played. Mm-hmm. Europe, obviously, Premier League still. There's no time to do it. So if they were to even move it that far back, it'd be like, okay, we've gone through the transfer window. These are 2 completely different teams at this point. Let's just play it all over again. You can't do that. And I don't think they will, but they shouldn't.
They won't. And Klopp needs to shut up. He needs to shut up, move on. Obviously ask for VAR to be better because, I mean, that was as bad of a human error as you could ever make. But, I mean, you got to move on, man. Sitting here asking for the game to be replayed is insane. Ask for VAR to be better. Ask for the officials to be better trained. Whatever it is, you shouldn't ask for the game to be replayed. Just accept it. You lost. Move on. Focus on your your European campaign coming out this week, Thursday. Love that. But and then get ready for the game on the weekend.
Exactly. And I mean, one more thing I want to just say before we move on is, what if they were to do this for this one? What's stopping them from doing it for any other game that happens in the future? Saying, "Oh, someone complained. We need to replay this." Doesn't hold the referees accountable. It's all of that issue. But moving on to probably the biggest shock of the weekend, Man City Wolves. Wolves winning 2-1, and it was that Korean guy, as Pep referred to him.
Dude, that was bad. That was
man who gets the winner after Julian Alvarez equalized, after Ruben Diaz scored the own goal. So Man City scored 2 goals, lost 2-1. But that whole thing with Hwang Hee-chan, funny that he was the one that ended up ending it for City and winning it for Wolves.
First of all, Pep, dude, are you kidding me? I know he looks at the scouts. I know he's involved with it. I've seen on documentaries him on his computer meticulously looking over tactics of other teams and how to best counteract it. That was bad.
And I will say, I will give him the benefit of the doubt because there's been times where even you and I have been just doing this and we suddenly blank on a guy's name in the moment of it.
Okay.
But it's the difference between when you were studying the guy day in, day out for a week and following the team so you know the result ahead of time and who they are than us watching games, reading stats and that stuff.
It is different than us semi-professional, that's what I like to call us, sports journalists, versus a manager who is getting ready to go against them. My coaches before every game know every player, know all about them because that's their job. And that's at the college level. Like that's a blunder you can't make. And to make it worse, you just call him that Korean guy. I mean, we live in a world now where you can't just call someone that Korean guy. That's tough, man. Like, no one's going to care because it's Pep, and you can't get mad at Pep because he always dresses nice and he's funny, and you can't get mad at him. He's not racist. But that was a tough comment for sure.
Absolutely. But I mean, back into the game, what domination by Man City.
Mm-hmm.
Outshot them, or possession was 68-32 in City's favor. Shots on target were 8 for Man City and 1 for Wolves.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Wolves come out. This is to be one of the big – this is a FIFA game in real life.
Yeah.
FIFA game where you're all dominant, completely controlling it, but ultimately ball bounces the wrong way once or twice and you lose.
I mean, this is what it takes for most teams to beat City, though, in the world. There's a little bit of luck, a little bit of Ruben Diaz putting the ball brilliantly past his own keeper. Like, that's what it takes to beat them. And Sheffield United got close. The Wolves, I mean, everything kind of just worked out for him in the end. I mean, some Korean guy got the winner after it was 1-1. So,
I mean, is it worry? I would say very lightly, is it worry time for Man City? They lost to Newcastle last week in the Cup, 1-0, lose 2-1. I don't know the last time we saw Man City lose 2 consecutive matches over any competition, but
it's not time to worry, but it is time to realize how important Rodri is to this team and what happens when he's out of the lineup.
Yeah.
When you suddenly are playing other players in that position, when suddenly
there's Calvin Phillips on.
Calvin Phillips,
Mateo Kovacic this past weekend.
Nunez, Kovacic in there. It is not the same because Rodri is the best center defensive midfielder in the world.
Yep.
They don't have John Stones either. So Jones would be – or Stone, sorry, not Jones.
Yeah, Stones you could even put in that CDM spot.
Yeah, so without those two, but especially Rodri, City is not the same team. Now, I mean, they did still dominate. They're always going to dominate because it's Manchester City. And when you have Erling Haaland up top with Julian Alvarez right underneath and sometimes Joning up top, Doku on the left, Foden on the right, they're still missing De Bruyne. They still are dominating everyone, even without their best player, in my opinion. So,
I mean,
so now you lose De Bruyne and Rodri, though, they look a little less dominant for sure. The depth drops off a little bit because Calvin Phillips is not Rodri. Mateo Kovacic is not Rodri. So, I mean, I feel like that's more the worrying sign is what happens if we lose another key player.
Well, they also
– Haaland gets hurt. What happens if Rodri gets hurt? Like, that's what I'd be more concerned about rather than just in kind of an anomaly of a week.
And I was going to say at the same time, Bernardo Silva missed that match as well, so that's even more midfield depth that they didn't have. He's still out for today's Champions League match against Leipzig. Rodri will be back in the lineup as the red card doesn't go over, but he'll miss the big match that we'll preview this weekend in a little bit. So it's tough to say. It was tough matches for Man City, and it's just you don't have that midfield control, and it just was what it was. Jose Sa played an outstanding match in his own right, giving up only 1 goal on those 8 attempts. It was just one of those games that nothing was going Man City's way, and Wolves did everything they had to do perfectly and found the result they needed.
I am a little nervous, though, that now they'll be ready to go for the Arsenal game because they're like, well, we got the loss out of the way, and now we got to focus up because we're going to the Emirates, and they'll kick our ass. That's what I'm concerned about. But we'll talk about that in a bit.
So it's going to be a tough one for you guys and even Man City at the way they're playing. But other games I want to talk about briefly from this past weekend. Man United, Crystal Palace. Talk about a team that's an absolute dumpster fire right now. We saw what happened in Champions League yesterday against Galatasaray. Man United over the weekend lost 1-0 to Crystal Palace. A Joachim Anderson goal was the difference in the 25th minute, and Man U is in the mud. We talked about the domination of Man City. Man U had 75% of the possession, outshot them 4-2, 10-4 on corners, yet came away with nothing.
Yeah. They're in trouble right now, more so than Man City. So if we want to talk about a bad week, Man U is the one who I'd be concerned about. I mean, we'll talk about the Champions League games here at the end, but even in this game, to dominate like they did and to lose at home 1-0 to a bang average Crystal Palace side.
But it's a Crystal Palace side they beat 3-0 4 days earlier.
Yeah, exactly. So suddenly you go at home and lose 1-0 to Joachim Anderson, which, by the way, fun fact, center back, scoring the goal he did.
Of course.
It's just, I mean, well, that shows what happens. Like, that's soccer. That could happen at any time. Is
Yep.
any team just scores a random goal. But at the same point in time, when you have that much domination on the statistical end of things, when you have 19 shots but only have 4 on target, that's a problem. That's a problem. 78% possession, and you can't turn that into a win. That's a problem.
Yep.
You have 741 passes compared to their 221, and you don't get a win. That's a problem. So just because they've got good players, better players than Crystal Palace, obviously, and played better at stuff that you'd play better in a training activity where you're just keeping the ball.
Yeah.
That they need that to translate into victories. They need that to translate into clean sheets. Right now, Onana is not convincing at all. He has been terrible, in my opinion, since moving there. I think besides Casemiro, and I will shout out Højlund. We'll talk about him later. I think he's good as well. But besides those two, without Varane as well, they're not good. But besides that, they're not good.
Mason Mount's been disappointing.
Terrible.
It's going from bad to worse, and I mean, I love to see it, but I don't understand because they do have the talent and everything, and it just goes back to what we'd said in earlier episodes that anytime you see Man U news, it's always bad news, one way or another.
Yeah, there's nothing positive. Everything going on is negative on the field, and it's negative off the field.
Yeah, there was a Man U fan from Ireland sitting at the bar I worked at last night, and I got talking to him a bit. He was saying it's honestly something has to change. His theory was Ten Hag is not the right guy. He's trying to do his plan, and it just isn't working with the players he's assembled. I would say it's similar to like Leeds in the Jesse Marsch situation. You have a manager who wants to do it his way, and as soon as it doesn't work, it's time to change. You realize, oh shit, we shouldn't have done that to begin with. And there was all that hope about Ten Hag. Regardless, it is still early in the season. Teams have only played 7 matches, but it's not been looking good for Man U, sitting in 10th at the moment with only 9 points from their possible 21.
Yeah, they're smack dab right in the middle of the table right now, which is not like a terrible, terrible way to start. They're still ahead of Chelsea, so they got that going for them. But
Mudryk finally got his first goal. We're not going to get into that match too much, but Chelsea finally scored twice, finally get a result in their favor, and Mudryk finally gets on the score sheet. So
yeah, about time. It has to be the crossbar challenge. You see that?
No.
What was it? Pochettino has been challenging him to crossbar challenges and always beats him. And then he finally beat him one time, and then he scored. So maybe that's what it is. You just needed that bit of confidence.
I'll tell you a guy and a team that didn't have any trouble scoring this weekend, Aston Villa.
Oh, yeah.
Beating Brighton. And we said this was going to be a very close match. We thought both teams are right on that outside of European spots, outside of Champions League places. And Villa come in at home against Brighton, win 6-1, and Ollie Watkins hat trick. Aaron Ramsey even got on the score sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But also Ansu Fati got his, I want to say, first goal for Brighton. So that's the start of something there. But Aston Villa was incredible that match.
Yeah. I mean, 6-1 is crazy. You know what else is crazy? 38% possession.
Yeah.
At home. They only had 38% possession, but they scored 6 goals. Ollie Watkins, hat trick, 14th minute, 21st minute. Just like that, the game's over, because then after that, Estupinian scores an own goal. At that point, it's 3-0.
Yeah.
But, I mean, say what you want. They had 19 shots, 9 of which were on target. That's pretty good. And they scored 6 of those on target.
Yep.
They scored a third of the shots they took. That's impressive. Brighton had 3 shots on target, 11 total, even though they dominate possession. So Villa was more than content to, lose the possession battle, say, okay, you guys have the ball, but as soon as you lose it, we are going to counter and we are going to bury you. And they did that. 3 goals for Watkins. Jacob Ramsey scores a goal, and Douglas Luiz as well scored in the 97th. So, I mean, great result for them. I thought Brighton was going to take this. Brighton has been one of the shining teams in the Premier League so far, like for sure. But, man, Villa battered them and absolutely nuked Brighton's goal difference in the process, down to +5 now only.
I mean, thinking about it, this was a match that had Brighton won, they would have gone top of the table.
Mm-hmm.
There was all that stuff because Man City played earlier and lost, so they had their opportunity there to jump to that number one spot, but wasn't to be. And I mean, looking into it, didn't even occur to me to think about it earlier, but this is the 10th consecutive home win for Aston Villa in the Premier League.
Wow.
They're turning Villa Park into their own
fortress.
Yeah, they're not getting anything, losing to anybody there at the moment, and that's a very, very impressive at the moment for a team that honestly was never anything special until the last couple of years. Unai Emery has really turned around that entire team.
Yeah, he really has, and I mean, they've got something cooking at Villa. We didn't know how it would be at the beginning of the year because they equally got battered by Newcastle on opening day, 5-1. So very similar to this, but then they go and do this to the team that we think has honestly been the most impressive in the Premier League, bar Man City, Brighton, and they just killed them. It was like as shocking as a result as you could see because Brighton has been so good, especially in attack. And then it was Aston Villa who just out of nowhere killed them and then leapfrogged him in the table in the process.
I mean, I talk with people about Premier League mathematics and how everything doesn't add up. Villa, as you said, battered by Newcastle. Brighton then go beat Newcastle 3-1, and then Villa battered Brighton. It's a circle of chaos between those three teams, and just nothing ever adds up. And it's crazy to see that kind of scoreline because last weekend we were talking about an 8-0 win. This time it's 6-1. Are we hearing 7 this upcoming weekend?
Maybe.
Arsenal put 7 past Man City.
Oh my God, dude! I would actually be in a state of like pure euphoria.
That does bring us into our match of the week. Unless there's anything else you want to say on the Brighton Villa match, apart from very one-sided.
Nothing to say on that game. It is worth taking a quick look at the table, though. I think.
Yeah, we can do that. Gonna go through that, or you want me to?
You can get it.
All right. So as we stand after 7 matches, because Luton and Burnley had their match in hand each that they were playing against each other. Burnley won that on Tuesday 2-1. So as we stand, Man City top of the table with 18, Arsenal and Tottenham right behind them. Tottenham somehow in second with 17 and 17 each. Don't quite know how Tottenham has the tiebreaker, but hey.
Yeah, I don't know.
Liverpool.
Goals for.
Goals for. Is that it?
Yeah.
Liverpool are 4th with 16. Villa, Brighton right behind them in the last 2 European spots. West Ham, Newcastle, Palace go down 7 through 9 with 13, 12, 11 in that descending order of West Ham, Newcastle, Palace. As we said, mid-table mediocrity, Man United and Chelsea. Man U in 10th with 9, Chelsea in 11th with 8. Then it gets to kind of that interesting part because Forest and Fulham are tied with Chelsea with 8 points, but sit 12, 13 respectively. 7 points for Brentford and Wolves, who Brentford 14 with the goal difference, Wolves 15. Then it's 4 points for Everton, Luton, Burnley, 3 for Bournemouth, and 1 for Sheffield United. That relegation battle, as we said all season and coming into the season, it was going to be a 5-team race, and any of those 5 could go down. We're really seeing that at the moment, and it's going to be interesting. One of the matches we will talk about shortly is that Everton-Bournemouth one because that has big potential relegation implications early in the season. So what are your thoughts? Anyone standing out to you in the table? Anything you're really surprised about through 7 matches?
First of all, Tottenham. I mean, fair play to them. They've been so good under Postecoglou. Second place. They look so good, man. They look so good. They're playing so well with Son playing that kind of false 9 role. Richarlison not on the field. It seems to be the secret sauce. Take Richarlison off and suddenly you start winning.
Yep.
But no, they look very good. I think their back line, bar the Arsenal mishaps, have been very good.
Yeah.
So I think Tottenham's been very impressive this year. West Ham, very good year so far. We'll see if that continues, but I think they've had a very impressive start. Obviously, Man U, Chelsea, not doing what they need to be doing. I think Chelsea was more predictable than Man U. I thought Man U would be having a great year, honestly. I thought they'd be having a very solid year. They're not. So that one's a little bit surprising. Also worth noting, Crystal Palace, 9th place.
Yep.
No one's talking about it, but they've had a quietly good start to the year.
Yes,
Top of the table. Not top of the table, in the top half of the table, excuse me. So they've had a very good start. Another bit that's I think is interesting is Luton Town, not in the relegation zone.
As of now, no.
17th because of that win at Everton.
Yep.
Did
the relegation battle is going to come down to, I believe, is that it's going to truly be those teams all playing each other and who gets the most wins against the other 5.
Mm-hmm. That's basically it on my end, but
yeah, I don't have too much. Say Fulham, I thought would do a little bit better, but
yeah, it's still early too.
We will see. But otherwise, moving on to the match of the week, as you said, Arsenal hosting Man City on Sunday, 11:30 Eastern time. That has to be the biggest match this week.
Mm-hmm. No, it's got to be the biggest game of the year, I think, right now so far.
Yeah, thus far.
Arsenal sitting in 3rd, tied with Tottenham, but they're sitting in 3rd. Manchester City sitting in 1st, 18 points for City, 17 for Arsenal. At the Emirates, we're going to see what Arsenal's made of. They beat him in the Community Shield thanks to an incredibly fortuitous deflection on Trossard's shot and then one of Penn's. So they beat him there, but can they beat him when it actually matters? That's what I'm curious to see is how will Arteta do? First, Arsenal's coming off a shock defeat to Lens earlier this week. To Lens, sorry. So I'm curious to see how we'll react. No Saka, which is a huge blow because it feels like we're losing all of our attacking threats at some point or another.
Martinelli's still going to be out. Yeah,
I think so.
I believe yes. No Martinelli, no Saka.
Yeah.
Against a team that's missing their 2 best midfielders, those 2 would have helped significantly in keeping the possession and putting pressure on that Man City back line like we've seen a couple teams do recently.
Mm-hmm. So that part is very unfortunate, but it's also fortunate that Rodri will not be playing.
Yes.
That John Stones will not be playing. That Bernardo Silva might not be playing. So while you can complain all you want about our injuries, they have probably more key injuries. I think Rodri is actually more of a key injury than Saka.
Oh, I agree.
Don't get me wrong, Saka contributes so much going forward in terms of goals and assists. But against City, you kind of, I think losing someone like Declan Rice would be a bigger deal. Yeah. Or losing someone else like that. So I think they actually have a bigger loss heading into this game. But yeah, I'm curious to see what's going to happen, how players like Trossard play, how Nketiah plays, because I think he'll play, how Jesus does against City this time around. So it's too early to say that this game could decide a lot, but it really could.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, last season, it was these kind of matches that really ended up deciding the Premier League title race. Man City won both against Arsenal and ultimately won the league by a couple points. So it's big swinging. You mentioned how Arsenal got lucky against Man City in the Community Shield. They've had a couple other wins in the past few years in cup matches. Look at it. Last time they beat Man City in a Premier League match was 2015.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time, and I don't know if they get it done this weekend either.
Yeah, I don't think we do.
I think, like you said earlier, Man City losing 2 straight, leading into today's Champions League match, and then into the Premier League match this weekend. They're like, okay, we've got our losses out of the way. It's time to get back to business and take care of what happened.
Yeah, and I'm not going to lie. If City loses to Arsenal, then it's time to start not panicking but being concerned, I think, because that's Newcastle Cup, Wolves League, Arsenal League. Bar what happens in Champions League. If they lose in Champions League as well, that's even worse.
Yeah.
But then I'd start being concerned. Arsenal, if we lose to City, I don't think we should be concerned.
No.
It's just City.
It's City.
Off, and we're missing Saka. So I feel like there's more to play for in that sense for City, and I think because of that, they'll also lose. Or I meant I'll also win. Sorry. Arsenal will lose. Sorry. I'm a little all over the place right now. But Yeah, I'm thinking City wins this game 2-0.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Same scoreline. I do think City does it relatively comfortably. I'm looking back at that 2015 match where it was before Pep's time. So it was Pellegrini coaching against Arsene Wenger, and these lineups are something else. Arsenal had Giroud up top, Theo Walcott, Ozil, and Joel Campbell in the midfield with Flamini and Ramsey. Theo Walcott had the first goal for Arsenal. Peter Cech still in goal, Mertesacker, Bellerin. And then, looking at Man City, it's Aguero, David Silva, still De Bruyne. So, but Yaya Torre, Fernandinho, Fabian Delph, Joe Hart in goal with Otamendi in center back. It's been a lot of changes in a long time since Arsenal's won a Premier League match against Man City, and I think that continues again at the moment of that drought. It's just not been a team that they can solve.
And I think teacher's going to beat student again. I think Guardiola just has the mind game edge over Arteta because he really has a huge part in Arteta's foundation as a coach and as a manager. Because Arteta obviously was an assistant under Pep. He learned so much about the game under Pep. Obviously tries to bring his own style to Arsenal, but there are some similarities. And I think Pep's just much better at doing what the two of them aim to do. I mean, he's the greatest manager in the history of the game, in my opinion. And I just think that battle will always be won by Pep Guardiola.
Yep. Yeah, he's just got the mental edge. His team has the physical edge. It doesn't look good. I could honestly see this being maybe a 3 or 4-1 win for Man City as well. I'm just not quite sure where Arsenal's goal is going to come from without Bukayo Saka or possibly Martinelli. It's going to be a tough one, but it's still going to be the match of the week. Still think it'll be very entertaining, high energy. Arsenal's crowd will be extremely into it at the Emirates, so that's never an easy place to win. This will be a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking forward to it. It's on Saturday. Yeah. So wait.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday at 11:30 Eastern time, 10:30 our time Central.
I need to take a nap. I'm trail off here towards the end, but yeah, right. I'm so excited for that game.
We'll move from the top of the table to the bottom. Like I said earlier, Everton and Bournemouth play this weekend, and this one has very big relegation implications early on in the season. Everton's been trending in the right direction a little bit more. Sure, they lost to Luton, but before that, they had won 2 straight against Brentford and a good Aston Villa team.
Mm-hmm.
Take that with what you may. Villa was in the cup, but Everton looked like they were kind of turning it around, whereas Bournemouth have just not done too much. They haven't even won a Premier League game yet this season. One of the few hasn't. Lost to beat Swansea and beat Stoke in the cup. Not exactly powerhouses by any means. What do you think the difference is going to be in this one?
I'd love to say Goodison Park, but that made no difference against Luton, so I don't think that'll be it. I think whoever scores the luckiest shitty goal or the most insane skill goal is going to be the one. That's how these games go. Doucouré suddenly scoring an absolute banger in their win that one game, and then hitting the crossbar like he did. That was the difference. And I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like games like this, it's some weird bounce of the ball or pure moment of brilliance, more so than good play or a great build-up or stuff like that that's going to make the difference. I do think Everton wins. I think they, like you said, trending in the right direction, minus the Luton Town game. And I also don't think Bournemouth's that good. No. I didn't think so at the beginning of the year. I picked them to go down. And I picked Everton to go up, and I'm going to stick with that prediction when I predict this game and say that Everton will get it done. They're at home. Hopefully the fans will be a little bit more behind them than they have been recently, and that'll make the difference for them. And I think they will win a very tightly contested game, 1-0. Calvert-Lewin is back as well, which makes a huge difference. We got to talk about that because
that was going to be my key to them when it was. Already has 2 goals.
Yeah, he's one of the better attackers in the league, to be honest, Calvert-Lewin. So now that he's back, I think that makes a difference, and he actually is the one who grabs the goal.
Yeah,
they win 1-0.
I agree. That was going to be my prediction. Was Calvert-Lewin gets the winner. I think it'll be a late winner because I think Bournemouth will play a stout defensive match. The Goodison Park crowd will have an impact later on in that match at the 70th minute onward, and DCL will find the back of the net for the 4th consecutive match.
I like
that. That's my prediction because he's very lethal in front of the goal. He doesn't need that much space, so I'm taking him for that. But Bournemouth have just not looked good at any aspect of the game, and
no, they've not.
They're gonna miss out, especially with their away record so far of 0 wins, 1 draw, and 2 losses.
Yeah, not what you need.
No.
You need to get wins in the games you play, especially like this. I don't think they will. That's why I still think they'll ultimately get relegated.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
With that being said, Everton have yet to even get a point at home this season. They're 0-4, scored once, conceded 5 times. So maybe something goes Bournemouth's way. I don't think so. I think Everton will get it done, but should be an interesting one.
For sure.
Another one that I do want to just kind of briefly talk about. We are almost at that hour mark. Wolves and Aston Villa. Which one do you think keeps their hot streak going? Because both of these teams had a huge win this past weekend, as we were just talking about. Who do you think gets it done this week, and why?
You got to go Aston Villa. I think the Wolves win over City was more fluky than it was a sign of any serious progress. I mean, they 7 points, so they've gotten a few points, but I still think that's not enough of an indicator that they're on the right track as much as they picked up a great win.
Agreed.
Aston Villa, I think, is on the right track. Winning 6-1 is as big a confidence booster as you could ever get. We'll see if maybe the European match on Thursday affects them a little bit, but I don't think it really will. I think they'll walk into the Molineux and kick ass. I think they'll score 3 goals. I think Wolves will score 1. It'll be a 3-1 win. And I just like the way they look in general right now. I think Emery's got them playing a very good I don't know about style, but in terms of getting results, they're doing what they need to do to get results. And I think they will dominate this game. They didn't dominate the Brighton game, but I do think they'll dominate this game. They'll finish their chances when they need to, when they get the opportunity to, and they'll get the win.
Yeah. I agree. I think Villa, I wouldn't be surprised Ollie Watkins gets at least another 1, maybe even 2. He seems to be on a tear at the moment, obviously getting the hat trick this past weekend, bolstering his goals to 4 on the season. But it's, like I said, I just think Villa's far too good of a team compared to Wolves. They've looked much better every aspect of the field. And as I said, Watkins scored 4 goals in his last 2 Premier League games. He's finding it at the right time. I think they win comfortably. I want to say it's 3-0. Because as good as the win was for Wolves and as good as it'll be a confidence booster, you can't forget they lost to Ipswich in the Cup a few days earlier. So it's still one of those teams, and drew with Luton before then, lost to Liverpool Palace. So they haven't exactly been that impressive. It's more definitely a fluky win. So their only other win this season was against Everton.
Yeah.
Have not been very good. So we will see what happens there. There's 1, maybe 2 more. Do you want to talk about either of West Ham, Newcastle, or Liverpool host or away to Brighton?
I think we got to talk about both of them real quickly.
Right. Let's start with that West Ham and Newcastle match. At West Ham, Newcastle looking to kind of continue their winning ways. Won 3 straight across all competitions after drawing with AC Milan before. They are playing PSG at the moment. That match just kicked off. So that'll be a tough one. I wonder how much of a toll that'll take on them because PSG is a tough team to play, as we all know.
Yeah, I think Newcastle, when they're on, is one of the best teams in the league, but they haven't been on a whole lot this year. I wonder if this game is what they'll focus on, and that'll take it out of them when they head to the Olympic Stadium on Saturday or Sunday. Yeah. Wait, is it Saturday?
Sunday,
yeah. Okay, so on Sunday. I think West Ham has looked very good this whole year. I think you'd agree with that as well. Their midfield's very good. They're more than happy to cede this possession battle, let another team dominate it. So Newcastle will win that for sure. But they love to counter, and they finish their chances when they get the chance. James Ward-Prowse, always dangerous. Mikel Antonio can always score. So this is going to be an interesting battle. Newcastle will definitely win the possession battle. They'll look the better on paper, but I'm backing West Ham to win 2-1. I think they will get chances to score. I think they'll take it. I think Newcastle does get on the score sheet. I don't know who it will be, honestly. Could be Isak, could be Wilson.
One of any of those 8 guys that scored against Sheffield.
Exactly. So I think that will happen. Newcastle, though, I could very easily see this being wrong. In fact, I probably should be wrong because Newcastle is playing so well at the moment in the Premier League and Cup competitions. We'll see how this Champions League game goes. But they're playing so well in those that they definitely should win. But I don't know. I just have a gut feeling that West Ham's going to get it done like they've done in a few other games similar to this already.
Absolutely. I mean, I see where you're coming from. I'm going to disagree. I do think Newcastle gets it done. I think really that 8-0 drubbing of Sheffield United was a big, big confidence booster. Then you go and finally get one over Man City. Do what you have to do against Burnley. I think they lose today against PSG, but I think then their focus immediately turns on West Ham, and a West Ham team that will have one less day rest because they play Freiburg away in Germany in the Cup tomorrow. So I think Newcastle gets it done. I think it'll be a 3-1 victory for them. The Geordies have looked relatively good so far, the Geordies.
Definitely.
And I do think they keep that going. The other one, Brighton and Liverpool. This one I don't know. I want to lean Liverpool's way only because Brighton just had that 6-1 thrashing and Liverpool have been on a relatively hot streak up until that match against Tottenham. Brighton also lost to Chelsea. It is the Cup, so I always take that with a grain of salt. But I think Liverpool's going to bounce back. I think Klopp's going to be in a pissed-off mood, make sure this team does what it needs to do to get a win. And I think they do. 3-1's been their number recently. I'm going to go 3-0. I don't think Brighton gets on the score sheet. I think Liverpool has a outstanding game, dominates every aspect of it, and gets a relatively easy win.
I'm going 2-0 goals in the second half for Liverpool. I think you have to go with them. I think they've looked very good, and the only reason they lost to Tottenham is because of the on-field circumstances. Definitely. There is a concern I have that possibly Klopp's antics might not actually benefit the team.
Okay.
I feel like it's going to go either way. It's going to either super motivate them to the point where they just go on an absolute tear.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the league's against us. Let's go prove them all wrong. Or it's going to be he bitches and moans so much that it has the reverse effect, a more negative effect. That's what I'm curious to see what will happen. I think it will be more so the positive, but there is a little inkling in the back of my mind that there could be more negative, more bad than good coming out of his antics. So we'll see. But I do think they're a better team than Brighton. Brighton's very good, but I think the 6-1 is going to haunt them. And I think they lose at home 2-0.
Yeah. So we are on the same page with that. That's the last Premier League match we're really going to go deep dive into. I can give you guys the laydown of what other matches we have this weekend. Not overly exciting. Luton hosting Tottenham, Burnley hosting Chelsea, as we mentioned, Everton and Bournemouth, Fulham hosting Sheffield United. That's one that Sheffield United need to get a point out of. They need to start getting points wherever they can, as do Luton, but I don't expect Luton to do too much against a good Tottenham side. Man United hosting Brentford. That was the one that started the season off last year where Brentford came out and shockingly throttled Man United 4-0.
Thrashed.
Lost the reverse fixture in Manchester where this one is. Crystal Palace hosting Forest. And we've gone through all the other ones. So should be some fun stuff still, but not as exciting as we've seen the past couple weeks being.
Yeah. The Arsenal City game, that's the one. But, I mean, so if that's your excitement for the week, it's a pretty decent 1.5.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Liverpool, Brighton, West Ham, Newcastle, all of those on a Sunday.
Yeah, on Sunday.
You're fine Sunday. Do want to touch on one final topic. We can make this one short before we wrap it up for this episode of It's Called Football. Champions League happened. First day was yesterday of this week's matches on Tuesday. Premier League teams 0-2. Arsenal lose 2-1, as you mentioned, to Lyon. Gabriel Jesus put them up. Then it was really when Bukayo Saka went down. It was 1-1 at that point, and Arsenal never really seemed to have recovered from that one.
No. Yeah, I still haven't watched the highlights. I was in class during the game, and I've refused to watch them so far. It's just, dude, That's a bad one. I will talk about the Man U Galatasaray one that make me forget about the fact that we also were terrible the other day. Onana, terrible. Everyone on that field, bar Hoyland, terrible. Nah, I'll give Rashford a little benefit of the doubt. I thought he actually did a decent job.
Yeah.
But Galatasaray's good. I predicted this in my Champions League predictions. I said Galatasaray gets out of the group. People mock me.
I mean, I was expecting Galatasaray to beat Man United, but I thought it would be in Turkey.
Mm-hmm.
Going into that crowd, it's just a welcome to hell sign and all of that stuff. It's in a very, very, very hostile place to play.
And they were down 2 different times.
Yep. And it was just an incredible comeback. And it was Icardi, guy we've seen play in Champions League many times before. They missed a penalty, but ultimately got the winner.
Exactly.
So it really could have been 4-2 to Galatasaray. They had their chances, and that Casemiro second yellow was sent off for the Icardi penalty, which he had to do because it was another Onana mistake.
Onana put him in a bad situation. You can maybe argue stay on your feet, let your keeper make this play, but Onana screwed him. So it's hard to put the blame on Casemiro. Onana, horrible. So he needs to figure it out.
I was going to say, like, if he does let Onana get that opportunity and come out, might be too late. We might have seen what Icardi did to him happen earlier, where he just chips it over him and ball settles perfectly in the back of the net. Nothing the Man United goaltender can do about it. It's bad, as we mentioned. Man U is in the mud at the moment. Love to see it, but Højlund, as you mentioned, looking very, very good, starting to find his actual form, and he's one that can be very dangerous for a 20-year-old.
Yeah. I said he's going to flop this year. He's looking like he's going to start proving me wrong.
Could potentially be a Premier League flop. He's now got 3 goals in the Champions League, though. So maybe that's where he's going to thrive this year. But looking at it right there, Man United sitting bottom of the table with no points. Play Copenhagen next, who they gave a tough match to Bayern Munich yesterday. Regardless, it was at home, going to Manchester, so there's always that. But which one of these, just final question, which one of these two do you think is the more embarrassing loss?
Maybe the Man U one, just because of the way it happened.
Yeah.
I think in terms of losing to the quality of opponent, Arsenal for sure. But because of the way Man U was up 2 different times.
And at home.
And a keeper, what nightmare on the day. I think that actually might be more embarrassing. In terms of quality of teams, Arsenal's was more embarrassing, though. That both of them were bad.
Yeah, not good losses either way, but I mean, Lens currently sitting 15th in Ligue 1 out of 18 teams. That's ugly. Galatasaray, I think it's been a down season for them. Not down by the means that they're not doing too well, but they're not top of the league. Fenerbahce currently holds that title, so they've been winning in Turkey. They usually do, but I do agree. I think the Man U loss was much more embarrassing than the Arsenal loss. Arsenal going on the road to France to play, a little tougher, not exactly at home. I wouldn't be surprised if they come out, Arsenal, and beat the hell out of Lens when it's at Anfield or at the Emirates. So we'll see, because we saw Arsenal a couple weeks ago beat the brakes off of Eindhoven 4-0.
Yeah, so hopefully that's what happens, but not a great start. We'll see what Newcastle and City do today.
We will. Nothing else from me, Jackson. Do you have any final words or thoughts on this upcoming weekend or anything else football related?
No, just excited to go downstairs and watch these Champions League games right now.
Oh, yeah, me too. Thank you guys, the viewers, for watching. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode of It's Called Football or any of other Vendetta Sports Media podcast shows that we have on the regular. See you guys next week.